to the disappearance and death of Michael Vaughn. Then 5-year-old Michael went missing in July of 2021 from outside his Fruitland home. Now a Payette County lieutenant confirms Wandrick has been charged with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and destruction of evidence. In 2022, police announced Wandrick, his ex-wife Sarah, and 2 other individuals were suspects or persons of interest in Michael's disappearance. Authorities searched the...
All right, this is interesting because this Stacie Wanda guy, his wife, and 2 other guys were picked up or questioned. 2 of them, I think, took off. They were strangers, a black guy and some other white guy that wore glasses, drank a lot. I seen him on YouTube talking about a lot of stuff. But they were suspects in the beginning of the case, right? But police didn't charge them, right? This guy did go to jail for other stuff, but never was charged with the murder. But now they are charging this guy, Stacie Wandrick or whatever his name is, with the murder of little Michael Vaughn and the disappearance of him and the disappearance of his body. So, the case came full circle again. But my question is what happened to the other people? We know his wife is in jail, but what happened to the other guys? Because there was a couple of them guys that were saying they were there. They knew what was going on, but they took off. I don't know. All right, let's finish watching this.
Wandrick's home and yard in Fruitland at that time. Sarah was charged with failure to report a death, but that charge was later dropped. Stacie Wandrick is serving time outside of state for a different crime, and the lieutenant tells us that he was not been extradited back to Idaho yet. Sarah is currently serving time in an Idaho prison on unrelated charges. Payette County prosecutor Michael Duke said in a statement that the office was moving forward with, quote, charges against individuals involved in the disappearance and murder of Vaughn. He said the Fruitland Police Department has not been able to locate Michael or recover his remains. Michael's mom, Brandy Neal, sent us a statement this morning saying their family is filled with mixed emotions. She said in part, quote, all we have wanted is for Michael to come home. Knowing that charges are coming forth to these monsters, we pray that they will finally tell us where Michael is. Michael deserves to be home with his family. We are here and we want justice. Michael will get his justice. We want Michael home, and we're never going to stop until we have Michael home. You can read the entire statement on our website. That's ktvb.com.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Hold on. If I remember correctly, didn't they live like a couple miles away from Michael or something like that? It's pretty crazy. All right, hold on a minute. 4 years. Well, like I said, they were suspects in the beginning of the dang thing. And didn't they say they or something like that? And what's crazy is the mother of Michael Vaughn did some kind of interview with them and actually talked to this Stacie guy or whatever his name is, or Stacie Wandrick or whatever, and was actually, convinced that he had nothing to do with it. But I guess the guy lied, right? So now they're charging him again with the murder of him.
Prepare to make an arrest in the case of missing Fruitland boy Michael Monkey Vaughn. A Payette County Sheriff's Office lieutenant says Stacie Wandrick is charged with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and destruction of evidence. Stacie was originally named a suspect in Vaughn's disappearance in 2022. No charges were ever filed against him in the case until today. Vaughn was 5 years old when he disappeared without a trace in July of 2021. Idaho News 6 heard from Vaughn's mother, Brandy, earlier this morning. In a statement, she said, quote, "Our family has mixed emotions. Yes, we are glad charges are coming. We want them to tell us where Michael is, period. We will let the justice system take care of the rest," unquote. Let's turn now to senior reporter Roland Barris, who is outside the home where Stacie Wandrick and his then wife, Sarah Wandrick, lived at the time of Michael's disappearance. Roland?
Yeah, that's right, Don. It was in 2022 when the home right there behind me was searched for evidence and the yard was excavated in a search for Michael's body. But investigators at the time said it was a, quote, credible tip from someone in the home that prompted the search. Stacie Wandrick was serving time out of state during that investigation, and it was later revealed that he was behind the so-called credible tip prompting the search. After a week of searching, no evidence turned up. Police at the time said they believed Michael was buried in the yard and then later moved. Stacie's then wife, Sarah Wandrick, was taken into custody on a charge of failure to report a death. Her charges were dropped the following year due to lack of evidence. Leaked video later showed Stacie speaking on the phone with investigators, directing them to where Michael's body may have been buried. And he placed blame on his wife at that time for Michael's death. He was heard telling investigators that his wife may have moved the body when he wasn't home. Michael's disappearance was a cold case, of course, for years with little to no development.
No, yeah, I remember this case when they started tearing up his yard and everything because one of the dogs got a hit, right? Supposedly the guy's story was his wife had something to do with it. He was driving around. They seen little Michael Vaughn at the park or whatever, or walking around, and they swooped in and picked him up or whatever in a vehicle or whatever. And, you know, I don't know. And I could have swore that they kind of knew each other or something like that. Knew the family, knew the mother and stuff like that. It was a crazy case. And if at first they were looking at the parents, his mother and her boyfriend or something, and little Michael walked out of the house. He was there that day, you know. They were babysitting him, or he was, and that whole story was crazy. But now it's come 360 around, where the people that they thought might have had something to do with it is now being charged with the death of them. So there might be others involved. Maybe this dude, Stacie Wandrick, will talk or something. And if anybody else helped him, or if there was many involved, he'll open up a can of worms or whatever. Let's continue to watch this.
No Amber Alert was issued when he went missing because the situation did not meet all the criteria to issue an Amber Alert. That prompted Governor Brad Little to sign Monkey's Law the following year, also known as Endangered Missing Person Alerts. The law issues regional alerts for endangered or missing people, regardless of their age, and has far fewer requirements than an Amber Alert. Now, I talked to
That was another suspicious thing. There was no Amber Alert put out. And we also seen that in the Delphi case, that there was no Amber Alerts put out. So that was kind of weird.
one neighbor just down the street who didn't live here at the time but had been following the case throughout, and I asked him whether or not hearing again that there's a credible tip in this case might be crying wolf, I guess. He said no, he didn't think so. He thought that if a judge has gone through the process of approving the arrest warrant, that they've got something to go on. We will have to wait and see, because at this point, while the case is detailed with a lot of history, there's really nothing substantial that we have heard from police in terms of evidence. We'll have to wait on that. Don?
Thanks, Roland. A statement we just received less than an hour ago from the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office clarifies Michael's body has still not been found. Just to recap quickly for you, those of you joining us now, murder and kidnapping charges have been filed in the case of missing Fruitland boy Monkey Vaughn. It's been more than 4 years since he disappeared. This is an Idaho News 6 breaking news update. Check back tonight on Idaho News 6 at 5 and on idahonews6.com.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Let me get back over here. So there you go. They're charging him with murder. I don't know if they'll be charging his wife because, like, a couple years back, didn't he claim that his wife did it? But they didn't find any evidence of his story being real. Right? They did have a cadaver dog go in there. They did hit on a body or something. You had them other two guys that were involved in this supposedly, but took off saying that, oh yeah, this and that, and they were abusing kids or trafficking or something or kidnapping because his Stacie Wandrick's wife wanted a kid, but she couldn't have a kid, and it was just crazy. So now it's come back 360 where they are charging him with murder. And maybe his story adds up. Maybe there was others involved. I don't know. We know this. I've seen the video where he actually was questioned by the mother of Michael Vaughn. And that's when it got crazy because he was trying to claim he knew them. That was crazy, right? Yo, hello, Miss Cactus Slinger. How are you doing today? So that's good news that they got this guy. They don't have a body. Maybe they can swindle this dude into talking and hopefully recover the body so we can put little Michael to rest respectfully. But 4 years have gone by. They need to beat some sense into that guy and figure out what he did with the body. He claims his wife moved the body. He told the police where the body was. Police went there, no body. He says his wife, because the police thought this was just a big story and they had nothing to do with it. He was a suspect, but his story with the whole thing, he knew the family, he knew, it's just crazy. Let me see what Miss Cactus Slinger is saying here. I wish they would because the mom is suffering so much the past few years. Yeah, well, that was crazy too with the mother and the stepfather or whoever it was, the boyfriend or whatever, because they were looking at them, and then the mother, right? The mother started talking to Don Wells. You remember that video where her and Don Wells were on the same video talking? It's like they knew. It was crazy. It was like they all knew each other. I don't know. It was crazy. It was just crazy. The mother has been sick with transplants. Oh, that's horrible. That's just horrible. This whole thing has just gotten crazy. Maybe this guy they picked up as charge, Stacie Wandrick, maybe his story was the truth in the beginning. This whole thing was crazy. I don't know. That's pretty crazy. Maybe. Because they actually thought that Michael's parents were also suspects, right? They were questioning them because they said their stories weren't adding up. That was crazy. That was pretty crazy. So, but you know what? At least they're putting the cap on something here. And they are charging someone with the disappearance of Michael Vaughn. Thank God for that. Now, hopefully hopefully that dude Stacie plays ball and communicates with the authorities, and he might be able to cut a deal. Leads them to actually what happened. So Debbie says the parents. Debbie, I couldn't figure out why Brandy and Don Wells were communicating so much. That was kind of crazy. They did that video where they were talking with each other. That was pretty crazy to me. Debbie says the parents are not involved. Well, I'm not saying that, but it just they were suspects in the beginning of the case. Well, at least hopefully we'll be able to come to some closure. Some closure on this. Well, there's another one that.
We have breaking news right now.
A warrant has been issued for Stacie to the death and disappearance of little Michael Vaughn. He was 5 years old when he went missing in July of 2021 from outside of his Fruitland home. And now a Passaic County lieutenant confirms Wandrick has.
Let's restart that because I was switching over and.
Right now.
A warrant has been issued for Stacie Wandrick connected to the death and disappearance of little Michael Vaughn. He was 5 years old when he went missing in July of 2021 from outside of his Fruitland home. And now a Passaic County lieutenant confirms Wandrick has been charged with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and destruction of evidence.
Back in 2022, police announced that Wandrick, his ex-wife Sarah, and 2 other individuals were suspects or persons of interest in Michael's disappearance. Authorities searched the Wandrick's home and their yard in Fruitland at that time. Sarah was charged with failure to report a death. That charge was later dropped, though. Stacie Wandrick, who you just saw, is serving time out of state right now for a different crime. And the lieutenant we've talked to tells us he has not been extradited back to Idaho yet. Sarah currently serving time in an Idaho prison on unrelated charges.
Now, we did talk to Michael's mom, Brandy Neal. She sent us a statement this morning saying their family is filled with mixed emotions. She said, quote, "All we have wanted is for Michael to come home, knowing that charges are coming forth to these monsters. We pray that they will finally tell us where Michael is. Michael deserves to be home with his family. There's one thing that just keeps ringing in my head right now," she says, and it's something that J.D. Huff said. He said that you cannot take one of our most precious citizens and ever expect us to stop. Now, Fruitland Police Department continues to live up to that statement. This is just the beginning to a very hard road for this family, they say. They say, we are here, we want justice. Michael will get his justice. We want Michael home, and we're never going to stop until we have Michael home.
This is, of course, a huge breaking story. We'll continue to update you throughout the morning and throughout the day here on KTVB and KTVB.com.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, there you go, folks. So they're making some leeway with this case, charging somebody, and hopefully this all unravels within court. We're going to be able to see this if they charge him. Although this guy, Stacie Wandrick, is already in prison and hasn't been transported, hasn't done his time yet for what he's in jail for now. Once he is, I'm sure he'll be transported back there and he'll be charged with murder, which they're probably already charging him. But he's already doing time in jail for something else that he did other than the Michael Vaughn stuff, right? And it's sad because I was just, he was such a cute little booger. I remember that case, that the first day they were looking in that canal, they thought maybe he wandered down the street to his friend's house. and maybe fell in that canal that was there by his house. And they were going in there and look, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. And then they got some footage of a vehicle that was driving around his house and stopped and backed up. And they think that, they had footage of little Michael walking down the street. And then they had that footage of that vehicle. So that vehicle might have been that guy, Stacie Wandrick or whatever his name is. Pretty horrible. Just horrible. But hopefully they do find him and we can put the little guy to rest properly and the family have closure of what happened. All right, ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye out on your weather. High chances of tornadoes next couple days. We did have some rain today. Some dark clouds came through. And I think we got more rain tonight, possibly, and tomorrow, chances of rain. So be safe. God bless. Happy Halloween. Right? I think that's today. Boy, I'm feeling it. Boy, they're hitting me with all kinds of sleep spells, curses, death magic, trying to get me to eat flesh, brains, trying to turn me into a zombie, poisoning me, all kinds of stuff. Well, that's what they do on Halloween, the Devil's Day, they're calling it. Might be, I don't know. I only pray to God. So there you go. Have a good day. We'll be back with more of the madness within the world. Have a good night. Well, I want to thank Miss Debbie Fox for stopping in tonight and saying hello and giving us her opinion on it. She thinks that the mother is not involved, and a lot of people don't think they are, but they were I'm just saying they were being looked at in the beginning, and it's horrible what the family went through. But I thought it was kind of freaky that they were communicating with the Wells. That was maybe that's their long lost kid or something. Brandy, I think her name was. Maybe, I don't know, but it was freaky to me. It was just the whole thing was freaky. And that Stacie dude, that dude don't look right. He looks like he's demonic. Probably sacrificing children for many years, but who knows? God bless you all. Have a great night. And that's the world we live in, where these people are actually sacrificing their kids, probably. I don't know. Or kids, but these idiots, I don't know. It's just sick. Have a good day.